A democratic republic of sport.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
And welcome into the Sportsocracy. I'm Tank Spencer. Caleb Peak is alongside. A little trouble this morning getting the sound going, but we are here.
We made it. We're on the air.
Live in the Wicked Weed studio, wickedweedbrewing.com. Drink different. Oh, it's going to be a good day, I can already tell.
Hashtag
fantastic.
9-ish.
It is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. 9-ish every weekday morning here on YouTube and Facebook Live. I'm Tank Spencer. Again, he is Caleb Peak. And we're going to talk some more baseball today. Gary Sheffield, he's talking smack about baseball. And I want to know, we'll get into his argument, see if he's got something, if it's really rooted in fact.
His argument is as good as "you kids get off my lawn." That's what his argument is.
It's pretty much.
It's nothing more than that.
It's pretty much that. Major League Baseball, though, says, hey, the numbers are trending up, so Gary Sheffield may not have a whole lot to talk about here. But anyway, we'll talk about that. There are great things going on in baseball right now. I mean, the storylines are there if you're just willing to open your eyes and look at it. It's smacking you in the face. We're seeing pitchers do something that has never been done before. We are seeing, hitters go crazy to start out this baseball season, especially Ronald Acuna down in Atlanta. That guy is an absolute freak and a no doubt just superstar on the rise for the Atlanta Braves. We'll get more into that and see if he's going to be an Atlanta Brave for much, much longer. Because, this is kind of how this goes. The guys, they come up through the farm system, they get real big, and then can you hold on to them? Can you keep them away from winding up in New York or Boston or L.A.? Because those are the teams that have all of the money. We'll also talk some basketball as we got sad news for James Harden as he's had a setback in the recovery for his injury. Plus, we'll get into some NFL draft talk. Looking at some mock drafts, we'll kind of rip it up. We'll also talk about the Carolina Panthers, the report that came out yesterday from Adam Schefter that they are considering trading down from the 8th spot in the first round. So be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here and also our Facebook page at The Sportsocracy on all of the social media websites. We will be live for all of the coverage of the NFL draft starting on next Thursday. So we are a week and a day away from the NFL draft, April 29th. We will be here live on Thursday night, Friday night, and all day Saturday, giving you our instant reactions to every pick in the draft. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Be sure that you get in on the fun with us and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now,
how do you think this place is going to smell after 3 days?
Probably a lot like a brewery.
Of you, Jeremy, and Brian, and I?
Yes, because especially with me and Brian, we are not the smoothest, the suavest of people. So if you're going to put alcoholic drinks around us, there'll probably be some spills going on.
You guys need to eat some probiotics.
I've had to clean this table 3 times in the last 2 days from spilling things. So it could kind of smell like a brewery in here. Anyway, we're going to be having a lot of fun on all 3 days of the NFL draft. Be sure to join us for that coverage right here in the Wicked Weed studio. And also all your draft prep available right here in the Sportsocracy as we've got all of the team needs going out this week for each and every team. We've got a playlist set up for every team, so no matter what your team is, we have the coverage for you. And also next week we're going to be hammering down our Jeremy's 7-round mock draft, because I can't say ours because Jeremy does all the legwork for this, because there's no other person in this room that cares that much about 7th round tackles.
Not even close.
Jeremy's over there whistling in the corner like, yeah,
Mr. Irrelevant.
I can't wait. But this is going to be a lot of fun. We like I said, all your draft prep, you can find it right here in the Sportsocracy, and join us live for the NFL Draft starting next Thursday. Also tomorrow, going to be a little new thing called Mullet's Mailbag. Yeah, Jeremy, going to take all your questions. Hit him up on Twitter with any questions regarding the NFL Draft that you want answered. He and Brian will be in here tomorrow morning answering all of those questions in only the way that Jeremy can. So Mullet's Mailbag, hit him up at Greene ESPN on Twitter.
Mullet Thursday instead of Mullet Monday.
Yes.
You're going to twist it up a little bit.
Yes,
see.
absolutely.
I get down with that.
All right, let's talk some baseball here. Gary Sheffield had some pointed comments in an interview where he said he no longer watches baseball, that he doesn't watch baseball at all. Direct quote from him. And he says the reason he doesn't watch baseball is because they've changed the rules so much, and that he doesn't like the fact that guys are swinging for the fences, that there's no longer basically station-to-station baseball. It's boring to watch guys go up there and strike out 180, 190 times. And, you know, that there are so many home runs now that it's not a thing. Like in the days when I was playing, here comes Jeremy's old man voice. Back in my day, when you hit a home run, everybody, it was a thing because it didn't happen very often. So now he's saying, oh, you know, everybody hits home runs, and it's not a special event anymore when somebody hits a home run.
So what this is basically your 95-year-old grandpa complaining about adding the three-point line to the basketball court.
Essentially.
Okay, so the game has been so different for so long now. It's integrated into the game, and you're still complaining about this. The home run is a part of Major League Baseball now, and also this is coming from a guy with the most exaggerated swing. I mean, it was entertaining as a kid to watch. I remember when he first checked into Atlanta, and, you know, I was already a big fan of Gary coming out of New York with the swinging the bat like he's chopping yaks. I'm like, I remember one of my high school baseball coaches, I tried to do that at the plate, and he immediately pulled me. He's like, what, are you Gary Sheffield?
Right.
No, you're not, so don't do that. You need to make sure you get the bat turned around as quickly as possible. And that was Gary's thing. He was able to get that bat speed up even with the ridiculously slow axe chopping motion.
Right.
But so exaggerated. It was all about the attention for Gary Sheffield. It was all about hitting home runs and being the showman. And now he has the audacity to turn around and criticize what's become an incredibly entertaining game because of Ronald Acuna Jr., because of Juan Soto, who is unfortunately on the IL right now. I came around to the Nationals after Bryce Harper left. After Bryce Harper became a Philly, I found myself no longer hating Washington with the same intensity that I did.
Right.
So it's kind of fun to watch Juan Soto hit 500-foot bombs now. But is it not entertaining? Are you not entertained?
I am entertained. I am fully entertained by baseball right now, and maybe that's just because my team's doing really well to start out the season. And you know, I get trapped in this. You know, baseball has always been America's game. It's always been America's pastime since I've been born. And, you know, I can't remember whose quote it was, but somebody had a great quote one time that said, you know, baseball is America's pastime, but football is America's passion.
Sure.
And I've always gone down that. You know, baseball will always be America's true first love as a sport. Times change, and the NFL is taking over, and we get it. That's why we talk a lot of NFL on this show all the time, because the ratings are fantastic. People are paying attention. It's a year-round sport now with, you know, the run-up to the draft and then free agency, and you don't really get a break anymore in the NFL world. But baseball is still there, and I think we're starting to see at least some kind of a trend. It's never going to be back to its heyday, because you're never going to get a lot of younger audience to buy into baseball, because honestly, it is boring at times. But I'll be frank with you, Gary Sheffield, it was boring when you played too. It wasn't like, you know, every game was just this, you know, this perfect station-to-station baseball. Everybody's putting the bat on the ball, and it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Baseball is not, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Baseball is just as entertaining today as it was years ago. You just have to invest yourself in the game.
So baseball there are a lot of rules. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of old rules that, frankly, don't make a lot of sense in modern technology. We have robot umpires, and we're going to talk about that later on in the show, how that's becoming a part of the game. We have them, but baseball chooses not to use them because the human element is still very much a part of that game. But to give Gary Sheffield a little bit of credit to his point, he's making the same points that Tim Anderson has made in the past out of Chicago. This kid is I think he's 24, maybe 25 years old, and he has said that he doesn't watch baseball. He plays it because it's a ton of fun. He has a hell of a good time doing it, but he doesn't watch it because he's bored by it. And that's, that goes to him trying to elevate the black community and get more, minority players into the game, and I understand all of that, but it kind of, to stick with the gladiator theme, the NFL is the modern day Coliseum. I mean, this is what we send our warriors into. This is where we send our gladiators into battle. It was hugely popular 2,000 years ago. It's still widely popular in America today. But baseball is a different kind of game, and I think that's what people need to understand. Football is marketed to a widely different audience. Baseball has become more of a niche market, but you know what? The numbers are on the rise, and I can't compete with that.
Well, I mean, it's trying to compare apples and oranges. It's like, trying to, let's use cars, for example. It's like and Jeremy picks on Kia, so I'll use Kia. It's like trying to compare Kia to a Maserati. Of football.
Kia's never sponsoring us anyway. Talk all the shit about Kia you want.
Yeah, they haven't shelled out any money to be sponsors, so screw them.
I saw one of their hamsters in here the other day, I think.
Right. But, baseball is the Kia in this scenario. Football is the Maserati. This one's more exciting. It's faster. It does a lot of things. The other one is just, it's there. And there are times where you could have fun in a Kia, but, usually you're, running from somebody. When have you ever had fun in a Kia? Who has ever had fun in a Kia? No, it's a steady product. It'll get you to A and B. It's there for your enjoyment if you so choose. And that's kind of how I view baseball these days. It's a sport that you can check out of. You can check out of a 3-hour baseball game in the third inning and not really miss a whole lot. You're going to miss some strikeouts. You're going to miss some outs. Maybe if your team has a couple on base, then you're following on your phone. You pull it back up on the TV to see if you score that inning. Football's not that way. Anything can happen at any moment in a football game.
And okay, so what was 16 games has now become a 17-game regular season as compared to 162 games.
Oh yeah.
Supply and demand. You have less games, you have less of an opportunity to make an impact, and so every game carries more weight. That's not to say that each and every game on the MLB schedule doesn't matter because, as you saw with Boston, you crank off 8 wins in a row, all of a sudden you've got a gaping lead in your division, and that's a lead that they're probably going to hold. I mean, they should be able, to at least last through July. I'm not sure if Boston actually makes it to if they're actually able to ride it into the playoffs. They've still got a long way to go, and that is the beauty of baseball itself. There are different eras throughout the season. You've got the spring, you've got the summer, and you've got the postseason push. 3 chapters, and if you're going to win the World Series, you've got to be able to conquer all 3 of those individual sections of the year. And it's a long season.
Part of Sheffield's comments were, quote, baseball was exciting when I was playing. They've implemented all these rules now, and they've changed the game so much that they're making it more hitter-friendly, even without having success. These guys can go out there and strike out 180, 190 times, and it's okay. Yeah, it is okay. And I get that Gary Sheffield was not, he wasn't a strikeout guy. He's one of the few guys in Major League Baseball you can look at his stats, look back on it, and he walked more times than he struck out. Okay, that's, I get it, that's the way you were, but I mean, do we remember guys like, I don't know, Brady Anderson? Brady Anderson was a guy that struck out a lot in his day.
In Baltimore.
And, Gary Sheffield, like it or not, Gary Sheffield will always be tied to the steroid era. He was big friends with Barry Bonds. He trained with Barry Bonds. And did he ever test positive for steroids? No, he didn't. But did we all think he was doing them? Yes, we did. All of us did. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Gary Sheffield, Fred McGriff. When the home run numbers started going up in the late 90s, we all went, something's wrong here. right? I mean, when
absolutely.
Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds both did the transformation into from Tom Brady bodies into Myles Garrett bodies. I mean, it wasn't that great, but you get what I'm saying.
Close enough, though.
Right, like when Mark McGwire shows up, for what it was like year 5 in Oakland and the St. Louis days, and he's on the front of all the magazine covers. He's got those big Popeye forearms.
Yeah.
You knew something was going on. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't care then, and I don't care now.
Jason
like I
Giambi
said
was
on
the
the
same
show
way.
yesterday, I don't give a shit if my players are, taking all of the drugs. As long as we're winning, to me, that's what it's all about.
Well, and that's the offensive thing about what Gary Sheffield has said, honestly, because he talks about his era of baseball like it was the greatest, like it was the end-all, be-all in the history of MLB, and that's simply not true because the PEDs have shown that that's not to be true. We can't count Mark McGwire and the great things that he did because it was against the rules.
Oh, no, we do. No, we count him. I count him.
I mean,
you may not
you
count
can't
him, but I count him.
It was great to watch, but you can't officially count that.
No, I officially count him.
No, well, I don't officially count it. Barry Bonds is not the home run leader to me because it was juiced. But, I mean, it's not, and again, it's not that it wasn't great to see. It was a really, really fun time to watch. Roger Clemens, the way that he was able to, I mean, the speeds that he was able to hit were just phenomenal. But what we're watching right now is even better. Because we're seeing the greatest hitters to ever grace Major League Baseball in the Acuñas, in the Juan Sotos of the world. But we're also seeing like Jacob deGrom, 14 strikeouts the other day, 9 in a row. That's only 1 short of Tom Seaver's all-time record of 10 strikeouts in a row. It was phenomenal. Right before we went on the air, I did a quick recap. I watched all of those strikeouts, and it's everything. He's the precision accuracy and the way that he's able to maintain himself all the way through the 8th inning. He still lost the game. Miami won that game 3-0. Because he had 0 run support. But the way that pitchers are able to maintain themselves now across the board is much, much better than anything we ever saw out of the 90s.
Okay. You think the pitchers today are better than the pitchers from the 90s?
By and large, for sure.
I'm going to disagree.
How's that?
I'm going to have to disagree. I mean, you got to think about the guys that were hurling in the 90s. I mean, early 90s, you had guys like Nolan Ryan. There ain't a pitcher in baseball today that could touch Nolan Ryan. Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez.
And Clemens juiced.
I mean, yeah,
Of course.
Okay, take Roger Clemens out of there.
So you say Pedro Martinez is one of the greatest of all time?
Absolutely. You don't think so?
I think maybe he's in the top 10. I might put him 9 or 10.
All right, I want to go down this path. Where would you rank players from today in the all-time pantheon of pitchers in baseball? Like, where would Jacob deGrom be for you right now?
That's a broad question. Jacob deGrom in the all-time annals of pitchers? I'd put him probably 6 on the list.
Probably 6. Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw is number 5.
Okay.
Nolan Ryan is number 1.
All right.
We've got to talk about. We've got to get Raleigh Fingers in there as well. He's probably going to be. He's going to be number 9 on the list.
Okay. All right. I can imagine that.
Okay. So Max
Randy
Scherzer.
Johnson.
Randy Johnson is number 2. The big unit is number 2 on the list. Max Scherzer is deserving of 1 spot on the list somewhere.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious. I mean, I know you're a young guy. You were just a wee baby and not even thought of when some of these guys were even played.
I came up through the 90s, though. I watched this great era of baseball.
He was born in 95.
94.
He was born in 1994.
I am 26 and a half.
I came up in the 80s. I don't know shit about disco or...
Sure you do. You know more than you're willing to admit.
Right.
I've seen you break it down.
Look, I don't think so. I mean, I think all-time great players from back in the day. I mean, even you think about Pedro Martinez pitching during the steroid era, and he was still dominant.
I mean, absolutely.
To me, that gives him a little check mark up.
Yeah, but you're a Boston Red Sox
in that
fan.
scenario. Well, I mean,
not one pitcher did I mention came from Atlanta. Except for
well, I mean, you could have.
Yeah,
you could have
talk about Phil
Greg
Niekro.
Maddox. You could have gone John Smoltz. You could have. I mean,
yeah, the list goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there were, I just think it's different eras of baseball, but by no means do I feel like this era is head and shoulders above the past eras, especially not when it comes to the hitters. Because I will give Gary Sheffield one thing. I think that was the one true thing that he did say. There were better hitters in the 90s. I mean, you think about career professional hitters, like Tony Gwynn.
Sure. Ricky Henderson.
There's not a Tony Gwynn in baseball today, to me. A guy that goes out there and will mash every day and will be able to put it where he just wants to.
What about?
I don't think those guys still exist.
You don't think Tatis is a fair comp to Tony Gwynn?
No, I really don't. I mean, he's got a lot of power. He's got, I think he's a good hitter. I'm not saying he's a bad hitter, but what I'm saying is you don't have guys that you got so many guys that go out there and look for the long ball that, yeah, you do have an uptick in strikeouts. You got more guys swinging for the fences because they know that's what's going to earn them millions of dollars. Back in the day, there was more of a focus on station-to-station baseball. What do we need right now? We don't need a home run right now. What we need is we got a guy on third. I need to hit this one through the gap on the right side of the field and drive that run in. And you had more guys back then that could do that. Paul Molitor comes to mind. He was a guy, he never did anything real fantastic other than just put the ball where they ain't.
I mean, that's rule number one.
I don't know. I don't think that there's a leg up, but although I will say this, that today's pitchers, by and large, I think there are more of them that throw harder than there were back in the 90s because you didn't have to. It's more of a finesse kind of a game.
If you're a starter now, you have to hit triple digits.
Oh, yeah.
You have to hit 100 with your fastball.
And
There's no way around it.
And see, that's just part of the excitement factor as we get more and more evolved, quote unquote, as a society. And, chicks dig the long ball. Chicks dig the fastball, too. 102 mile an hour fastballs are things that will keep people watching just to see, can he break 103? Can he get to 104? Whatever.
The thing that baseball...
I don't think there's more skill in the game today than there was back then. I think the skill was greater back then, but today you have more impressive athletes.
Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, you've got greater parity across the board as well. You've got a lot of teams that can compete, legitimately at any given time. And so what baseball needs to be careful with is to avoid the WWE syndrome. You need to have the drama there. You need to have these in-season, in-game fireworks like what happened between the Dodgers and the Padres the other day with Clayton Kershaw and Jurickson Profar chirping at each other over what was a perceived catcher's interference call. We're also seeing a lot more of that this year, of these kind of oddball plays on obscure kind of rules, batters swinging late specifically so they can make contact with the catcher. Things that if you're a casual baseball fan, you're not going to get it. Right. But these are things that really piss these players off, and it's causing all this in-game tension. And Major League Baseball needs to let that happen organically, because when it becomes forced, when you schedule too many of these series, like with Boston and New York, during the 2000s, there were almost too many series between those two teams over the course of the regular season. You saw a little bit of jawing, a little bit of fireworks, but usually by the end of the season, it was just another game. You would forgotten all about the rivalry because you played this game 10, 12 times over the course of the series or over the course of the season. Again, it has to happen organically. You can't force drama into a situation where there is none, because then you have people going out the door. Then you have people seeing right through it. So we can see that this is a work now. So that's the thing for Major League Baseball.
I just think as the audience changes, you have to make changes in your sport to be able to keep the attention. Somebody said in the comments earlier that the games seem to be going faster this year.
And that's by design.
And it's about damn time. But I'll be honest with you, it's still not moving fast enough. There are still times where you think, whatever happened to that pitch clock idea? Where is that right now? And that's something that they're testing out in the minors again this year, is to put a pitch clock on these guys to make sure that they're not standing on the mound, reduce the number of times that they can throw over to first. I think all of these little tweaks are great, but from what I'm gathering from Gary Sheffield is that he wants it to go back to the way it used to be, and nobody wants that. I mean, maybe the 65-year-old guys like my dad who sit at home and watch Major League Baseball routinely every day might be going, I remember when it was so great and I could take 7 naps during one baseball game. And that's not how the world works. The world moves faster, quicker. We want to be entertained immediately. And so, to me, more home runs are better. Fewer strikeouts would be great, but you know what? If you're going to do it, just fucking strike out and leave. Just do it as quick as possible. Let's see the pitch clock come into play. 3 strikes, you're out. Just move on. Let's get to the next one.
And again, you want to see that happen organically. If batters are striking out, I want it to be because there's a damn good pitcher on the mound, not because the quality of the batter is so low that they can't hit what would normally be a pro-level pitch. But MLB they're just in such a tight spot right now because the rules, the numbers are going up. But you don't want to change the entire way that the game is played just because of the rules. I'm thinking about Trevor Bauer the other day. I forget who the other pitcher was on the mound, but he was he had a request for him after the game. He said, Trevor, when you're on the mound, just try not to dig your cleat into it so much because I'm stepping into a crater when I go out there to take the mound, and it's really throwing off the way that I deliver.
Right.
If you get a pitch clock in the situation, you want to make sure that you don't change the intricacies of these pitchers, of their ritual, of their routine, because there is so much that goes into it. Trevor Bauer Max Scherzer is the same way. He will charge and just scuff the mound like a bull while he gets the call in and everything. I think 30 seconds is probably long enough. Once you go down to 24 seconds, I think you're really rushing things and.
I'm at 20.
I'll
be honest with you. I'm at 20 seconds.
You got to give it time.
If you can't figure it out in 20 seconds, then automatic ball.
Automatic ball.
Automatic ball. If you miss the pitch clock, it's an automatic ball.
Even on a 3-2, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth.
Don't care.
If you violate the pitch clock.
I'm sick and tired. That's the one thing that I think people who don't like baseball don't like about it, is that in these pressure-packed moments, you have to wait forever for the guy to stare in. And he's got to shuffle the ball. And he's got to dig his foot. And he's got to look over here. And he's got to look over here.
And you don't like that.
He's got to stare back in. And then he's got to shuffle the ball again. And he's got to shake off the sign. And he's got to look back over. Like, you see how boring that gets. To me, I don't care. Pitch the ball. Let's do it. Toss it over the plate.
If it's the bottom of the first inning or the bottom of the fourth and we've still got a long way to go, then yeah, that's boring. But I think if it's bottom of the ninth.
My question is, what do you think about? What are you thinking about? Do you not already have a scouting report that tells you what pitch to throw in what scenario to what guy?
Sure you do.
Yeah, you do. Follow the damn game plan. You don't have to do all of that shit. And if I put you on a pitch clock and it's 20 seconds, you're going to have to fire that 3-2 pitch in there before you walk the bases loaded because you're taking too damn long. I think these guys are going to switch their rituals. Like, okay, I'm a Red Sox fan. Okay, a lot of my knowledge comes out of Boston. Do we remember Nomar Garciaparra? He is the #1 criminal offense of all batters in Major League history to me. Because I could not stand that little thing he did every time there was a pitch. He had to step out of the batter's box and fix both gloves and pull them and go like this. And then it was 20 seconds at least before he was ready for the next pitch to come in. You got to figure out a way to make the game move faster.
And that's when you had 4.5-hour games on television because you really didn't have anything else going on. What else was coming up? The evening news?
Right.
So baseball wasn't really on a time frame.
Like I think in the World Series year in 2004, the average New York Yankees Boston Red Sox game lasted 4 hours. It was awful. Now, as a fan of the teams, I really enjoyed it because, it's rivalry, pressure-packed moments, and but still, I had those moments where like, oh, somebody's coming up to bat. Yeah, I can leave the room. I could just go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't keep up with the times. And I think that's the one thing that baseball is starting to do with the let the kids play thing, let them show emotion, don't be, the unwritten rules bullshit. We haven't seen so much of that recently. And I think the younger players are coming around to the new way that baseball has to be to get more eyes on it.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that come to fruition to some extent.
Yeah, I think baseball is beginning to mold into kind of a hybrid model where we're getting some of these new age technological advances, the pitch clock, to advance the speed of the game. And I'm fine with doing that innings 1 through 8. But at some point, you have to remember what game you're playing. And in baseball, the clock is not supposed to be a factor. So my vote is for in the 9th inning. This is for regular season, spring training, all the way through the World Series. The 9th inning, turn that thing off.
Turn the clock off.
Let's get focused on baseball for 1 inning. I don't care how long that inning takes because you're not supposed to be on the clock in baseball. You're not supposed to be bailed out by a timer. You're supposed to get the job done yourself. And I think when it's crunch time, when it's 3-2 bottom of the ninth, there should be no clock on. I mean, am I on line with that?
No, yeah, I mean you're right on line with that, and that is something that I would consider. We'll turn the pitch clock off in a close game.
We can compromise.
If we're up to, but here's the thing: if it's a 13-4 ball game like it was the other day against the Atlanta Braves and the Chicago Cubs, actually they had 2 of those games back to back. But if you turn out to that, and we're not turning the pitch clock off for the ninth inning. In fact, the pitch clock goes down to 10 seconds at that point. At that point, you have enough time to throw the pitch. Guy catches it, he throws it back. You're throwing the next pitch in 5 seconds.
You're doing the Rick Barry underhand.
Let's just fucking get it over with. It's 13-4. This is not happening. Stop it.
Let's put the screen out there and just toss
how
BP.
many times has that happened? How many times in the history of baseball has that ever happened where a team came back from 10 runs in the last inning? I don't think it's ever happened.
I've seen the Braves have 10 runs put on them twice in the first inning.
In the first inning, yeah, absolutely.
So I'd rather forget that.
Yeah, but at that point, I mean, you know what's coming. Everybody knows what's coming. I'm going up there. I'm going to hack it 3 times. If I can't make contact, then let's just get the game over with and move on to tomorrow's game. It doesn't need to be a big show every time in the 9th inning. Now, if it's a 1-run ball game, we got, okay. I can get down with that.
Well, like in high school, you've got the running clock rule. So, I mean, if it's maybe a 7-run difference bottom of the 9th, then keep that baby on. Let's get this thing over with. But I think you can't interfere with the natural course of the game. That's the whole thing. That's what all this comes down to. You got to let baseball play out the way it's meant to be.
But Gary Sheffield talking about the rules have changed so much. It's like a different game nowadays. I don't see it. I mean, what monumental rule changes have come in the last few years that have, well, heck, since what, 2009, he was saying. What has really changed in baseball to make it any less than it was in 2009?
The biggest change that baseball has had is they've amended their international players rule. So we're getting more players from Curacao, from Venezuela, from Mexico and the islands. And that's really the biggest change that we've seen is the demographic of the game. The game itself has largely stayed the same.
Right, but it's not much about the gameplay that has really changed.
Not at all.
And they're talking about ways to keep tweaking it to make it more exciting. We want run production. It's one big knock against baseball is
so
not
Jacob
too many
DeGrom.
people right now.
Give me something, man.
He's got to have some help at some point. But that's one big knock on baseball is that it's, there's not a lot of scoring sometimes. There's not a lot of people that are going to be interested in sitting down and watching a 3-hour pitcher's duel that ends 1-0. Now, as a true baseball fan, I'm one of those.
I love a pitcher's duel.
I love a pitcher's duel. Absolutely. But for mass appeal, you need more scoring. You need more runs. You need, and guys do need to get more skilled at hitting. We need more professional hitters out there that can beat the shift. That's one of the worst things, I think, in baseball is the shift. Now, I'm not saying they need to outlaw it. I've heard people talking about that for the last few weeks of outlawing the shift so we can't have this anymore. That there should be a standing rule that you have to have 2 guys on either side of the second base bag. You can't shift the entire infield over to the right-hand side because that's one thing I never understood. Like, they would never have done that to Tony Gwynn because Tony Gwynn was such a pro hitter that he just put it right down there. That's all I got to do.
Chipper Jones would switch to the other side of the plate.
Absolutely. I don't think we're in that. I think the hitters have to evolve. They have to put more into their craft to be able to get the smaller payoff. But that's not what guys are into. Guys are into the $1 million contracts, and they're into, trying to hit 50 home runs every year, and that's why we're seeing so many strikeouts in the game. I don't know that you can really change those things, but the things that you can change, like one thing that they're trying out in the Atlantic League this year, is moving the mound back. Moving the mound back a foot and just giving the batters that little extra time to catch up to the ball so we don't see as many strikeouts.
Just 1 foot.
Do you hate that?
I mean,
we're going
if you're gonna
61 feet 6 inches.
So
now.
what did I say at the close of last week's show? We're in an experimental time. If we're going to try something, now is the time to do it.
Absolutely.
Single A ball, why not? If you're going to try something, try it at the lowest level of, well, it's not low A though, it's high A. So these aren't just the rookie crop. These aren't the greenest of the bunch. These are players who have a little bit of professional playing time under their belt, so they're not the worst that you're going to see. It's actually a great way to test this out. And a foot really isn't that much, but again, if you're not throwing throwing 99, 102 miles an hour, which a lot of these guys aren't. They're going to be topping out around 95, maybe 97,
right.
On a four-seam fastball. You're going to see a lot of balls flying out of the park. So this is going to put the onus on the pitchers to hone. You can only throw so fast.
Yeah.
So the only way to alleviate this is to increase the break in your pitch and to increase your accuracy. You've got to be able to hit the corners of the plate with surgical precision, or else you're going to get taken yard. And I think the Atlantic League is a great place to try this out.
I agree with you. And, people talk about football being a game of inches. Baseball is a game of millimeters.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a game of millimeters and milliseconds. And I think moving the mound back probably will have a marked impact on being able to catch back up to the ball. I don't think it's going to affect the pitchers all that much, but it will affect the hitters in a positive way, and I think that's fine. Yes, I get Alex Sander. By the way, congratulations to Alex Sander and his lovely wife. They just had a brand new baby, so congratulations to you.
I made a graphic. We have a gift for Alexander.
We have a gift.
Actually, another
Okay.
one. I just couldn't get it on the screen.
All right, we have a gift for Alexander. Oh,
Nice.
that's beautiful.
Hey.
The card-carrying captain of Team Gets Mine, number 1.
Elias will be the first official card-carrying captain of Team Gibson.
Excellent.
Awesome.
The very first member will be Elias.
The first one ever. There has never been one of those sent out. You'll be the first.
Right on. So congratulations to Alec and his wife. Look, as a father myself, Caleb's a father as well. We are right there with you.
It's
We
big
feel
news, dude.
all the joy you feel.
Big news.
in this moment. So, congratulations to you guys, and we'll be getting that gift out to you as soon as possible. Anyway, Alex Sander was saying that if you make the pitchers throw every 10 seconds, it's going to end up being a home run derby by the 5th inning. I get it. I'm being a little hyperbolic here.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just move it along. We don't necessarily, I'm not the brainchild. You all know that. Nobody's going to listen to my opinion and go, oh, that's stupid. Jeremy does it every day. But all I'm saying is you got to figure out a way to move the game along. And I think we're finally getting to that point that now all of these changes can be made. We're seeing the older generation die off, sadly, but we're also seeing more and more younger people get involved. And in fact, I think the one great thing that Major League Baseball has done in the last few years is to put Theo Epstein in the circle of trust. Now that Theo Epstein is in the inner workings of Major League's front office as a whole, I think we're going to start to see things change. There's going to be more open. I wouldn't be shocked to see Theo end up as the commissioner at some point. And I think a lot of these changes are going to be, they're going to be tested out. We're going to, you got to test it, analyze it, see whether or not it can come up to the big leagues to make an impact. I'm not one who's all upset about the 7-inning doubleheaders that we've got going on. I've heard a lot of people bitching about that over the last couple of weeks.
What do you think about the runner on second, though?
The runner on second, I think, is a ridiculous idea, but also it gets the games over faster. We're not, the chances that we're going to end up with, 18, 19 inning games has been reduced greatly. You put a runner in scoring position to start out the extra innings.
Yeah, the 10th inning.
I'm fine with it.
I can't.
It's too minor league for you?
It's too minor league for me.
Okay.
It is. It's the same thing as handing him an aluminum bat. I mean, you're reducing the difficulty of the game at this point. So yeah, maybe it reduces the chance of an 18 and 19 inning game, but to me, those are some of the most epic games that you can be a part of. I remember sitting up until 3 o'clock in the morning watching an Atlanta Braves versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was, I think it was like 2008, 2009. One of the most epic games I've ever been a part of. One of the greatest memories I have of baseball. So
right.
For me, it's not a bad taste in my mouth to watch a game go that long. I guess I'm a purist, though. I guess I'm more in line with Gary Sheffield.
You are a purist, but I think what all the purists have to realize is that you are in the vast minority. If you want baseball to even kind of come close to competing to the other sports that are out there, you're going to have to figure out a way to keep people locked in. And you're not keeping too many people locked in with a 23-inning ball game. It's just not going to happen.
Right. 23 innings, dang, that would be a
that would
be a marathon. That should count as a
we
doubleheader.
just had the anniversary the other day of the 23-inning longest game ever played. I forget what 2 teams it was. It was a minor league game. It was Rochester against somebody else. The Pawtucket Red Sox, I think. Because I think Wade Boggs and Cal Ripken played in that game.
That's worth sticking around for.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a 23-inning game. Like, no, I'm done. I'm just out.
Yeah, for a minor league game, I'm going home, dude. I'll catch the highlights on
Nobody's
the
sticking
local
around
news
for that.
channel next week.
Nobody's sticking around for that. But with these different things that they're trying, the different rule changes that they have been considering, I mean, let's look. Do you need larger bases?
You shouldn't.
I don't think that's going to make any bit of a difference.
And that's a safety, quote unquote, thing. It's,
yeah.
All it's trying to do is help the batter get to the base more quickly. Mm-hmm. It's just another advantage.
Right. It's like getting into, like, I think in Pee Wee, like when we played Pee Wee ball, they had, if you got inside the circle around the base, that was good enough. You got safe.
Are you serious?
Yeah. it only lasted for like 1 season, if that.
Oh, that makes me want to eat my hat.
Yeah, it was completely stupid. Absolutely stupid. But limiting pickoff attempts, pitch clocks, robot umpires. Please, dear God, we have computers now that can tell us balls and strikes. I don't need Joe West back here and his ever-fluctuating strike zone telling me what is and what isn't. Because it's the dumbest thing to me that you have, that you have pitch by pitch, we're able to track the ball, show you where it crossed the plate inside the strike zone, and have all the commentators go, I don't know why he called that a ball. Mm-hmm. That's clearly a strike. But that's just what you get. That's just the human element of the game. Technology has advanced so far, we don't need the human element anymore.
Except for at first and third base.
We didn't have video replay back then. We have the technology to be able to get these calls right. Hell, last night I was watching, was it the Braves game I was watching last night? And there was a pure bang-to-bang play at first base. Ball goes in glove. Cleats hit the bag. He's called safe. It was too close. Tie goes to the runner.
And that's a reviewable play.
No, come on.
Yeah.
And they did. They reviewed it for 5 minminutes and still got it wrong.
And that's twice this season the Braves have been screwed on a non-overturn.
Right.
A blatant one.
I want the robots. I want the computers to tell us balls and strikes. We don't need umpires back there to tell us that anymore. We can have them sitting in the dugout or something. Give them their own little hut back in the backstop, and they can sit back there and watch it on the computer and go, oh, yep, that was a strike, and that was a ball.
Just wait until Josh Donaldson or Nolan Arenado, 2 of the hottest heads in baseball, wait until they take a bat and start breaking every electronic box that they can come across. When they get called out looking, somebody's going to pay.
Yeah.
You can't argue with them.
Well, you can't argue with the computer. The computer says, look, it's right there. It's on the inside corner. Yeah. Sorry, bro. Hate it for you. We'll put a little pad on there. We'll put a little, a tantrum pad on the side of the booth, and they can just go up and bang it when they don't like what the computer says.
A little rage room in the clubhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
We'll give them their little safe space. We can lock them in a room, and we can give them, soft little pillow to stroke because their feelings got hurt by a friggin' computer. Give me a break.
These dudes worth $350 million.
Right.
Yeah.
But no longer will you have a guy arguing with an umpire who's never going to change his call.
No, never in the history of baseball has that happened.
Right.
Well, I don't think they can. Once the call has been made, the umpire
you
can't reverse
can
it.
go back and change your call. You can do that. Hell, I think back to what's one of the worst ones ever? Oh, the no-hitter. Galarraga for the Detroit Tigers.
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh, God, he had a perfect game, and they blew the call at first base, and he didn't get his perfect game.
Yeah.
Shit like that could be fixed very, very easily, I feel like. But they don't want to get up with the times. They don't want to continue to do it. But I don't know. Maybe things are turning around for baseball. I will say Gary Sheffield has a couple of things that, he has a couple of facts in there. I'm not saying he's completely wrong. I just think it's if you don't like it, shut up, Gary. That's all I got to say.
He took his money and ran.
Yeah, but Major League Baseball has said that the viewership is going up, so that's at least a good thing. It's not down, it's not bottom of the barrel anymore. They released the news yesterday or 2 days ago that more than 1.34 billion minutes had been watched on live games on MLB.TV, and that their subscriptions are up. They're seeing about anywhere from a 12 to a 40% increase in watch times over the last 2 years. I think 12% compared to the first 18 days of last season, 43% increase when compared to the same period of the 2019 season. So we are starting to see the numbers go back up. Now, granted, the numbers are still kind of small. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN hasn't gone all that well. Their max viewers have gone to like 1.6 million viewers, or just under that. But even that is a 33% increase from last year. So I think we're coming around to more people are getting in on baseball. They're streaming it more. They're watching it on television more. While it's not the number one sport in America as far as number of viewers and revenue and all that, they are making some strides. And I think the rule changes will only help it. The more you can speed up the game, the more exciting it gets, the more personality you let into the game, it's going to continue to rise.
Oh, and you also got to look at what's going on in the world as well. Back in 2019, before we ever knew anything about the coronavirus or the COVID-19, people were just talking about the state of the game. They were just talking about, whether they were excited with the way things were trending or whether they were just bored with it all. And then COVID-19 hits, and every time you flip on a game, you see an empty stadium. And there's no way to get away from it. It was supposed to be a release. Everyone thought that you could watch these games and get a sense of normalcy. And actually, people watch these games and end up just getting totally bummed out because it just reminds you that we're in the middle of an awful thing that's happening. So I think
it's still going on.
Yeah.
I turned on the Red Sox game last night, and my wife sits down next to me on the couch, and she goes, "It's just weird seeing no people at Fenway Park. There's like 14 people that you can see behind the plate."
And you know what happens? Click. Turn it off. And so that's what's happening with your ratings.
Yeah, but one would think that if you can't go to the games, the viewership would increase, and maybe that's part of it. But last year the ratings weren't great either for the weird 60-game season that they had.
I'm curious about the Texas Rangers ratings though, because now that they have the light, they have the full ballpark again. Whether or not it's a good call medically, I'm not going to go into that. I just want to see what those viewership numbers are. Because I guarantee they're going to be up from what they were the last 2-3 years. Even though the Rangers are terrible. They are an awful baseball team. I mean, you saw that one. Joey Votto turned a triple play on them the other day, an unmanned triple play. That's how bad the Rangers are. But it's still worth watching because other people are there.
Always love unassisted triple plays.
Oh, God. It's embarrassing, but so much fun at the same time.
Absolutely. But you do have great things going on in baseball right now. Ronald Acuna is probably the best player in Major League Baseball right now. He is definitely going to be one of these guys who is the face of Major League Baseball.
Batting .419 with 7 home runs, leading the league in both. I mean, that is a big piece of lumber that he's swinging.
Yeah.
Better than Marcell Ozuna, better than Freddie Freeman. We knew the kid was good, but batting at the top of the order, he's putting up slugger numbers, and that's out of the one hole.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal.
The top 3 hitters in Major League Baseball right now are Ronald Acuna, Mike Trout, and J.D. Martinez.
Yeah.
All these guys are right around the 400 mark. Justin Turner, I'll throw him in there as well because I think he's hitting about 400 this year too. You've got so many young faces that are coming in. The Red Sox were playing the Blue Jays yesterday, and it was all the newer generation of players. Vlad Guerrero at first. You had Kevin Biggio at second. Bo Bichette at shortstop. These are all guys that I watched.
Isn't that awesome?
I watched
That's
their
so much
dads
fun.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I dig that part about it. Fernando Tatis Jr., I've said, I think is going to be the number one guy in Major League Baseball here very shortly. Mike Trout and Mookie Betts, those guys obviously great players, but I think Fernando is the next transcendent player that Major League Baseball will have. These second generation players are killing it right now. And I think that's one thing that baseball really has going for it. You've got rivalries going on all over the place. And, hopefully the San Diego thing will work out like I think it's going to, and we'll actually have a race in the NL West between the Dodgers and the Padres. Because I think that's another thing that baseball's been missing is the top teams are always the top teams and nothing really changes. There hasn't been a whole lot of fluctuation. Every now and then you'll get that, Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland A's team that gets in there and, we're really pulling for the little guy. But I think there's more parity around the league.
Yeah. The East Coast in the past was where you would see those battles between the Yankees and the Red Sox, and usually between the Braves and the Phillies,
right,
or the Braves and the Mets, usually the Phillies over the last 10 years or so. But yeah, that parity is really beginning to spread, and it can be completely unexpected. I mean, who would think that Xander Bogaerts would be hitting just under 400 for Boston? I mean, he wasn't even he was one of their big bats coming in, but he wasn't heralded as the top number getter for the Red Sox.
Right.
And here he is sitting at third in the league. But it's the mentality of these players that's really impressive to me. I don't know if you saw the video, but I'm really impressed with Verdugo, with Alex Verdugo from Boston. The video, there was a kid. He was able to stop Verdugo on his way to the clubhouse and asked him about his swing. He said, "Hey man, what are some of your tips?" And Verdugo stopped and just basically gave him an entire tutorial on his swing, on how to get his bat speed up, on how to. He said, "Throw the mechanics out. Don't think about what you're doing. Just hit the ball."
Right.
And that's advice from a Major League Baseball player. I mean, your dad could tell you that. You're not going to believe it.
Right.
But when Alex Verdugo says it, you're going to take that to heart. So I was impressed with that, and the numbers that he's been putting up. I mean, Verdugo is somebody worth listening to.
And the more and more guys can be accessible to the fans, and we're seeing the advent of the social media, the connection with the players and the fans can be great. It's just the fact that they don't. It's not encouraged, and it hasn't been encouraged. And I think the more and more that is encouraged, the more and more the game's going to change, and the more the fan bases are going to build.
One of the things that I think is worth talking about before we get out of baseball is the old records that are in danger of falling. Because we go back to Jacob deGrom, he was only the 9th pitcher in MLB history to strike out 9 batters in a row. And I mean, that's going back well over 100 years, maybe closer to 200 years at this point. Things that have only been seen a handful of times are happening this year. Yerman Mercedes out of Chicago started the season, I think 8 for 8 or 9 for 9 to begin his career.
Right.
9 straight at-bats, or 8 straight at-bats that he got a hit before he was ever put out. That hadn't happened since, I think, 1903. So if you're watching baseball, it's a historic time to be involved because things are happening that haven't happened in a 2-3 generations.
How about Corbin Burns? Corbin Burns, the starting pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. Young kid. He's come in 40 strikeouts and no walks.
Wicked.
In his first appearances of the season. It's never been done before. They don't have anything to compare it to because we've never seen anybody do that before. And maybe that's part of what Gary Sheffield is talking about, is that you see this guy come out of nowhere and, he's 40 strikeouts, no walks. Guys aren't working walks anymore. They're swinging for the fences and they're striking out more. But honestly, to me, that gets them out of the way quicker and speeds up the game.
Yeah, and
I'm not really
be watching a lot more tape too.
All that much. In the NBA world, we had some news with James Harden having a setback in his recovery, his hamstring rehab. Apparently, there has been another slight tear or something go on in there. He had a CT scan, and they showed that, yes, there was some more damage that was done to the hamstring after his, not CT scan, his MRI the other day. And so they're basically back to square one with his recovery. And this puts him in danger of possibly missing some time once we get close to the postseason. To me, I think it's basically the Los Angeles Lakers thing. I don't think this is a major hit for them. I mean, obviously, if Kyrie decides to take a few more days off, and Kevin Durant, well, he's hurt again.
Right. No surprise.
It could be the start of a disaster for the Brooklyn Nets.
The turnaround for Harden was incredible. Leaving Houston, clearly he was unhappy with the way that team was going.
Oh, yeah. He
comes to Brooklyn and the triple-double in his first game at the Barclays Center. 25.2 points per game. I mean, he's averaging a double-double with 10.9 assists per game as well.
Right.
It's a big chunk that's missing from your team. And again, especially with the wild card that Kyrie is, taking these personal days, the kid can ball out. He's an excellent basketball player, but he has to be there both physically and mentally. And as we get closer to the playoffs, I'm not sure that you can count on Kyrie to be there mentally all the time.
No, I think once it comes to serious time, he'll be able to.
I hope so.
I mean, remember the way that he performed in the finals with LeBron when they won the title. LeBron obviously was a big part of that, but remember, Kyrie had better stats than LeBron did during that. I mean, he's also a guy who, when he bears down and he looks at and he really focuses in on basketball, he's a phenomenal guy. It's just during this time, it's all wishy-washy and, I could afford to take a few days off and here and there. It's like Kyrie's got his own load management plan going on.
Well, for what Kyrie's being paid, he should be on the floor a lot more than what he is.
Oh, no doubt.
And with Kevin Durant being on the bench again, I mean, that's another guy that you cannot count on being on the floor for you and providing valuable minutes. So this is an opportunity, if nothing else, for James Harden to show up and to show out and say, hey, I'm the guy. But I'm the man here in Brooklyn.
Right. But this is why I can't buy into the Brooklyn Nets, is because they played a total of 10 games together with all three of them. When they all come back full strength for the playoffs, I think the chemistry is going to matter. If you want to make it deep in the playoffs, chemistry comes into play big time. And if you can't play together as a team, then it's going to be very, very awkward and very hard for you to be able to win these 7-game series. I don't see Brooklyn making it to the finals. I don't see them making it out of the East. I think they're going to struggle with Milwaukee. They will struggle with Philadelphia. I think the size is going to matter for these teams. But, I mean, Brooklyn Nets fans upset, yes, that all of their guys have been spotty at best of being in the games throughout this season, but I kind of look at them the same as the Lakers. I mean, when you have 2 superstars, in their case 3 superstars on your team, they're going to be able to come out and be a competitive team on the floor. But when it comes to winning, I think it is going to matter that they don't have the chemistry and the cohesion.
Especially when you run into LeBron and AD or Nikola Jokic and Spida Mitchell out of the Western Conference. I don't think it ends well for Brooklyn. The pieces are there, but they're not there at the same time. They're not connected.
Right.
Pieces all have to be cohesive.
Yesterday, Adam Schefter tweeted out that the Carolina Panthers are considering trading down from the 8th spot in the NFL draft. It recoups some draft capital that you lost with the Sam Darnold deal. That's a good, sure. But it's not a move that you make before the draft. This is, everybody's wondering, well, why not just get the deal done now? Let's go ahead and make this happen. No, because you don't know where the guy that I believe is the surefire Hall of Famer in this draft is going to go. You don't know if Penny Sewell's not going to fall to you at 8. And at that point, if you've traded out of that spot and Penny Sewell ends up being there for you, it's going to be a black mark on this front office for a long, long time. It'll always be the guy that we missed out on.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that you hang in for. Now, I don't expect to see any movement, really, out of the NFL draft with trades and things happening leading up to the draft. I think draft night's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be very unpredictable on what happens because we still don't know what San Francisco is going to do. So you got Denver possibly trading up to 4. You got Carolina possibly wanting to trade back. Miami possibly wanting to trade back. Dallas is getting phone calls about their draft pick. Philadelphia keeps throwing out this, or their analysts and stuff keep throwing out this crazy idea that they might try to trade back up into the top 10. Washington wants to trade up. Chicago wants to trade up. I think it's going to be a great drama-filled night in the first round of the draft. If I were giving the advice to the Carolina Panthers, you hold on to that pick and see what falls to you. But by all means, get what you can. If New England wants to trade up from 15 to 8 to go and get a quarterback that's still going to be on the board there, because I'm convinced that there's going to be probably 2 quarterbacks that are still on the board right there, Mac Jones and Justin Fields. I don't think either of those guys are going to go, barring trades, obviously. Denver trading up would be one thing. Anybody could trade up. But if things stay the way they are, I don't think Denver has to move from 9 to get a quarterback.
Probably not the way it's looking, because I think the real sweepstakes is at that 4th position. Kyle Pitts is going to be of utmost importance, especially the way that Dallas has been talking about them. But, Atlanta is in control of their own destiny with that, picking 4th. Man, Kyle Pitts would be great for Matty Ice. I'm not an Atlanta Falcons fan by any means, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that. So I hope Atlanta will hang on to that pick for that very reason. But again, speaking of being in control of your own destiny, Carolina is exactly that, picking 8th. I was kind of thinking Rashawn Slater would be a great pick for Carolina. He's, projected to go He's not in the top 10 according to Pro Football Focus, but he's awfully close, and I think he does actually go 8 if Carolina stays where they are.
And Penei Sewell's gone.
Yeah, and Penei Sewell's gone. I don't
right.
think there's any chance Penei lasts to 8. I think he goes 6. But man, it's such a I just can't
It's
wait.
a real possibility.
I'm foaming at the mouth for this draft. I've been thinking about this for months, and I don't know. I can't fathom it anymore.
Right, but the Patriots fans are all going crazy. They think they need to trade up to get a quarterback. I don't think Bill's going to do that. Bill's never drafted a quarterback in the first round before. Jimmy Garoppolo is the only quarterback that he's ever drafted high in the draft as a second-round pick, and they don't really trade up all that much. And I can't buy into it. I think Bill's more of a wait and see what we got guy.
Yeah, Bill's a promote from within kind of guy. That's what happened with Brady. That was the plan with Garoppolo.
Yeah, but there's nobody there to promote from within.
You're right.
If they were going to do it, they would have done it already.
That's the problem.
They wouldn't have re-signed Cam Newton. They would have, promoted Jared Stidham to the starter. That's not going to happen. You don't have the next guy in-house. And I think Bill knows that, but I think Bill's also a bit of a gambler. And he's like, you know what, I'll wait till 15. And if 15, the guy that I like is not there, then maybe we'll wait to the second, third round. We'll see if, maybe bring in Davis Mills or Kyle Trask.
How much easier would a Davis Mills or Kyle Trask be to train in the Patriot way than a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance or somebody like that? A younger quarterback is less talented, less naturally skilled, but he can be molded. He can become a Patriot, and that's what Bill Belichick wants.
True. Very true. I don't see them really making a move. I've seen people throwing out possible trade scenarios of New England could trade up to 8 from 15 and only have to give up a 3 and a 4. That's not how that works. Jeremy likes to use the trade value chart to gauge, what a pick is worth. The difference between the 8th pick and the 15th pick is about 400 points, which is equal to a second-round pick, which is exactly what Carolina gave up in the Sam Darnold deal. So you could recoup what you lost and move down to 15, and then at that point, maybe there's a secondary player that's still there. Maybe, you're going to bring in Caleb Farley or something. I don't think Carolina's really tied to anything. Offensive line help obviously has always been the drum that I have beat for the Carolina Panthers, that they need to upgrade the offensive line. So obviously sticking at 8 to pick Penei Sewell, to me, is a home run, no doubt. You don't even think about it for a second.
I mean, there's recent precedent for it. 2015, the offensive line, with a little help from Super Cam, who he was that year and was never afterwards. That was the one year that we got with Cam Newton that he was worth a damn.
Right.
It was because of the offensive line. Mike Remmers was phenomenal up until the Super Bowl when Von Miller ate his lunch, dinner, and fourth meal.
Right.
But, I mean, you got to get back to that. Those pieces are missing. And, Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, 2 great options.
Right. I'm still seeing mock drafts, though, that have Carolina staying at 8 and taking a quarterback, which to me is the dumbest thing on the planet. Like, that's when you should just shut it off and not read the rest of it. Because you just traded for a quarterback that you have him for 2 years. You're going to pick up the extension or the 5th-year option on his contract. You're probably going to extend him if things go well, but now is not the time to make that decision. To me, bringing in a quarterback, if you already have a quarterback on your roster, you only bring that guy in if you got 1 year. If you got 1 more year and then there's the question mark on that quarterback, that's when you make that move. You don't make that move for a quarterback when you already have a guy sewn up for 2 more years.
Yeah.
When you still have, Matt Ryan. We'll use him as the example for Atlanta. When you have Matt Ryan for 2 more years, you don't bring in a rookie now to be the next guy, or at least take him that high in the draft. You can take a flyer on a guy in the 3rd or 4th round if you want to, but you don't bring in a guy at number 4.
I think the Matt Ryan situation is a little bit different than Sam Darnold because Matt Ryan, let's be honest, is in the twilight of his career. We don't have that much longer with Matty Ice before he heads to his beach house somewhere. So if you're the Atlanta organization, you got to see that coming. You got to see that on the horizon. Bring your quarterback in, and you can't expect Matty Ice to have too much pride to teach this young man, to teach this quarterback and show him the ways of the Atlanta Falcons. However, if you're Sam Darnold and you've listened to the way that he's talked about the way he was treated in New York, how he felt like a piece of meat, that he was undervalued, and now he's happy to be in Carolina. He feels like he fits into Matt Rule's offense. He's comfortable with CMC, and he thinks that things are going to go well. From a morality standpoint, now is not a good time to bring in a quarterback because Sam Darnold believes he's the guy.
Right.
He's the man of the future, at least for the next 2 years. This is his offense. This is his team to run. You bring in a quarterback, you're undermining what's already there. And it's not a good decision. I think you got to let Sam Darnold do what he does. He's proven that he's quality. He just hasn't been given a chance to prove it.
And I think it's analysts who do mock drafts who think that they're smarter than the front office of the Carolina Panthers. I don't even think the Carolina Panthers are thinking about drafting a quarterback. If they're at that 8 spot and there's a quarterback there, they're going to be looking to other teams to trade down. That's exactly what that report from Adam Schefter was yesterday, that they will be open to trading that pick because they're not taking a quarterback. It just doesn't make sense. You don't invite that on yourself like the Philadelphia Eagles did last year. We see how badly that went, and that's not something that they're getting into in Carolina.
Right.
Now, they do have to figure out what to do with Teddy Bridgewater, and I heard what was it? One of the NFL Rumors Twitter accounts yesterday tweeted out that the Denver Broncos would be thinking about trading a number 1 pick to the Carolina Panthers for Teddy Bridgewater.
I hope they do.
Stop that! That is a massive overpay for Teddy Bridgewater. That would be a dumb move, and George Payton's not a dumb dude. He knows he could get, if he wanted to get Teddy Bridgewater, he could get him on the cheap.
Additional 6 at best.
He said, Jeremy says a conditional 6 at best for Teddy Bridgewater.
Bridgewater's damaged goods.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not maybe a starter for Denver.
Right.
But most teams in this league, he's going to sit. And that's all you can count on from him.
Yeah. I don't foresee Carolina getting stuck with him. They will trade him for something. He will not be there. This will be Sam's team. There will not be a rookie that's drafted high on this team. It's just not going to happen. So anytime you see a mock draft that says Carolina's taking a quarterback at 8, you just remember I said that.
David Tepper is smart, though. I mean, at the finish line, that's the best place you can toss some confusion into the mix. When you can throw everyone else off their game while you have a clear picture of what you're going to do, I think it's a smart business move. Even if it is a complete smokescreen, now's the time to hit them with it.
The draft is only 8 days away. We will be here live in the Wicked Weed studio for all 3 days of the NFL draft. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and get all of our draft prep content that we are putting out. We've done so many things already, and we're churning out team needs for every team this week. Next week is going to be the release of the 7-round mock draft, team by team, put wonderfully into all of the playlists that are here in the Sportsocracy here on YouTube. Again, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to share it with your friends. Tell your other geek NFL friends that this is where they can go. Don't forget, tomorrow, get your questions in for Mullet's Draft Mailbag. Jeremy's going to be answering all your draft questions. Hit him up, on Twitter at JGreene ESPN. Jeremy and Brian tomorrow morning answering your draft questions, so don't forget to get those submitted as soon as possible. Well, actually, you can just throw it to him on the fly because Jeremy's great at doing that. I do that to him all the time, and I'm always amazed that he rarely ever gets tripped up by that shit. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Caleb Peak. We are in the Wicked Weed studio, wickedweedbrewing.com. Drink different, and we'll see you next time.